Hello, this is One Mana Left, and it's that time of the league. We have a new league coming out, so it's time to redo the Mjolnir video, because once again, there's been some changes. Notable things like Adorned has been removed from the game, pretty much. Last league, they had the big Archmage shakeup, which changed Mjolnir a lot. I've now had more time this league to play Mjolnir with those changes and figure out what skills are good and how to play them best. It's really settled down on two skills, which is Lightning Conduit of the Heavens and Ball Lightning of Orbiting. I'd say those are the big two. There's a couple other changes coming in 325. Battle Mage's Cry is basically being removed from the game as well. Endurance charges are getting buffed. A couple changes, but I'm just going to jump right in, and I'm just going to start with the demo just to see some power here. Just to see what, like, the endgame looks like. Like, obviously, I'm going to start talking about more League Start stuff later. This is not a League Start POB. This is a endgame demonstration. But I'm at 5k depth, and I'm about to do an all. Just to show that, like, you know, this build power level can go to the end of the game. The difference is, it's not on, like, Mana Forged Arrow power level, where you just, you know, kill this boss in a couple seconds. Instead, it's on a power level where, you know, I actually have to fight and do mechanics, and it takes a little while. One other change here, though, I'm going to show is Battle Mage's Cry is basically getting removed. So I'm going to show you this all with no Battle Mage's Cry and just, like, see the damage I'm doing. And you'll notice my mana is going to lag behind a little bit. It's going to be a little lacking. And then I'll show with Battle Mage's Cry just to kind of see the difference. But next league, with the melee skill changes, the damage effectiveness of Cyclone is being doubled. So whatever you'd see me leech here with no Battle Mage's Cry up, next league that damage would be doubled. Just from the Cyclone change. So no Battle Mage's Cry next league, but I'll show you the comparison here. So this is no Battle Mage's Cry, just this is the damage leech. Okay. Not great. Not great. But it's a little deceiving because you're comparing, like, what I'm generating versus what I'm spending. So, like, the absolute difference isn't that big, but this is with Battle Mage's Cry. So this should be better Mana Leech. Like, you can see the difference, right? So you have to account for that difference. But I do think just the doubling of Cyclone damage will be a big enough difference. Oh, I'm gonna just miss this. Oh, I just missed it. Okay, well, I got to the point where I'm like, oh, I can one phase this. And then I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna need to, like, use 2 dynamite. And then, nope, that didn't work. Alright, whatever. Okay. I'll do an Uber Shaper after this as well, just to kind of see, like, some endgame demo. But I wanna show in this demonstration too. This character is using a 150 Adorned. Now, a lot of people have the mentality that, like, stacker builds are gonna die without Adorned. Maybe it depends on the stacker. Also, another thing you'll notice here is I'm not going to use Battle Mage Cry on the intermission. Because the leech on AoE is fine. On boss, on single target, it's just not quite enough things you're hitting. But currently, like, if you see me Battle Mage's Cry here, there's not really a difference if I do or don't Battle Mage's Cry. But next league, just the double damage on Cyclone. It'd effectively be whatever I'm getting for Leech on 2 targets. But, I'll use 1 here, I guess, but... Okay, oh, I've screwed up my mana. That's actually bad. Oh, I screwed that up big time. Alright, we're gonna get one more of these phases. But, I mean, this is, like, the end of the game. This is a 6k delve boss. Someone did hit 6k delve this league as Mjolnir. So it's totally doable. I did 5,300 in Sanctum with a much weaker version of the Mjolnir build than this. So It's not, like I said, it's not a delete the game at 6k delve levels like Mana Forge, but it's like, it can do it. But this level of content is significantly higher than Uber's. Because, we'll do a comparison here. If you're not familiar, you know, I do this in a lot of my videos, but some people don't know. The power difference between, like, a 5k delve max HP boss and, like, an Uber Shaper is very, very, very different. But you might ask, well, why are you showing this on, like, a super duper geared character? Well, I always typically do this because a lot of people that play, you know, stacker type characters. Oh, I forget I don't need to, like, do anything on these. They just die instantly. But, like, a lot of people like to play them for, you know, a decent amount of time. Some people play this game to play a character for 3 days, then re-roll on repeat. But people, especially that play, like, builds like Mjolnir or, like, stacker type builds, like to play that character for a long time. So I think it's important to start with, like, what the high end is, and then turn around and show, like, the more humble beginnings. But the other thing I really want to just show here is, like, the number and power difference between Adorned versus no Adorned. You would think, especially if you heard, depends who you ask, but I've certainly heard people say that, like, all these stacker builds are going to be much weaker without Adorned, you know, X, Y, and Z is dead without Adorned. At least in the case of, like, mana builds, and I guess all the stackers I've played, strength stack is the same too. I've been playing so much Mana Forge that I'm just Battle Mage crying out of habit. I almost have to forget to not do it. But, like, they aren't really much weaker without, I probably don't even Battle Mage cry this. I probably just kill him instantly, right? Surely I don't go Oom here, right? Does he even do much damage to me? I can face tank everything, right? Oh, okay, well, I thought I'd get the instant kill. Whatever. Alright, we gotta have slow Uber Shaper kills because apparently I can't instant kill him. Alright, whatever. But, like, there's the Uber Shaper damage. There's a slam. Did that Uber Shaper slam look like it did much damage? Now, remember, too, defensively, this is getting buffed next league, because the 4 minimum endurance charges will provide 16% elemental damage reduction. So, you know, all those Shaper balls hitting me that have 40 pen, that, you know, like, max res can't really do anything about. Next league, they would do 16% less damage because of endurance charges. So, anyone that has good access to endurance charges and Hierophant gets +1 max with 4 minimum. Is going to get a nice buff from that change. But the power difference between Adorned and Smalls is not... It's basically nothing. Alright, this should be insta-phase. That's close enough. Alright. Because remember, right now I'm at 22k ES and 19k mana. And my POB DPS is 117. But I have an endgame POB where I swapped this over to a no Adorn setup using 3 small cluster jewels instead. And then, you know, you bring back some of the powerful unique jewels. You go double split personality. You can go Emperor's Mastery. You bring back Healthy Mind. There's all these jewels that kind of got phased out by Adorn, but they're not that much weaker. And when you swap to all those and then put in 2 or 3 small cluster jewels, the build is actually, like, tied. It's 20k with 127 mil DPS. So it's 10% more, 129 mil. It's 10% more damage. And it's, like I said, oh, I forgot, I just distinctly Battle Mage cry there. But it's, you know, these die pretty fast. It's like 10% more damage, 2k less ES, and 1k more mana. So I would call that about a wash. So I'm just going to show you the comparison. You know, to people who say, oh, it's dead without Adorned, whatever. Okay. Let's take a look at this POB. So, this is the Endgame Adorned POB. It's not, like, super optimized. But this is a one-to-one comparison because I use the same exact gear and just showed Adorned versus no Adorned, okay? 117 mil DPS, 19065, 22, 690, whatever. Like, that's what I'm currently working with. Pay attention to those numbers, all right? Let's go back. This is the no Adorned comparison. So a little lower energy shield. I've switched some things around. 1k more mana. And 122 mil DPS. So I actually am a higher damage, mainly because I have 1k higher mana. So minus 2k ES, minus 1k mana. Defensively, that's like maybe 4% less tanky, but it's 5% more damage. But remember, this doesn't have the endurance charge change in. This doesn't have if you factor that in into your tankiness, this setup is actually both tankier with the endurance charge change and it's higher damage, okay? But let's get into what people are actually wanting to know right now, which is how do you league start this, and how do you do the gear progression. So I'll give you the rundown of how I did it this league. So this league, I'm not gonna go into too much detail on like campaign. Like I don't do guides on how to kill Kitava. If you've played this game enough, you know how to kill Kitava. Personally, I did brands through the axe. Hierophant has that option. It's pretty strong. I think I did armor brand with recall, just testing out the automate since we had that added this league. You can do like regular penance brand, not penance brand dissipation, just regular penance brand, just absolutely pipes. But yeah, you have probably the armor brand recaller is like maybe the most solid start. But now with the Archmage changes, you can basically transition once you get into like early maps into a number of regular Archmage setups. This league I did Archmage Unleash Blade Vortex. I'll link a POB in this description. I don't have it immediately handy on me, but it's in my. It's basically the same as the previous video, but that's what I did this last league. Is I did BV Unleash Archmage, and the reason I like that is because you can just go all in on mana and don't have to worry about spend, and it's just nice, comfy mapping. I don't necessarily think this is like confidently the best option. That's just what I did. You have other options. You can go Frostbolt Ice Nova. It's very popular in this league. You have to go a little bit more investment in cost reduction, but that is a very strong option. So you can go just like generic Archmage and Frostbolt Ice Nova. The third option, some of us watched the Four Stone race, and we saw Dan just walk on water with his Archmage start. He did Frostblink of Wintry Blast with a 4-link with Archmage in it, with Ball Lightning of Orbiting Self-Cast Archmage. I think this looked really solid for an early game like Archmage progression. And it looks like a really strong build option. The only thing I would say about that is I would maybe lean more toward that if you're planning to just farm as Archmage until you can buy an Indigon and then reroll. Because if you go that build route, you're gonna want to start to invest in cast speed, because Frostblink and Wintry Blast is a great move skill if you have a lot of cast speed. He played with a lot of cast speed on the actual Ball Lightning of Orbiting, so you're gonna want to get cast speed on rings ×2. You're gonna want to get cast speed on Amulet if you can, and he ran like double wands with cast speed on him. You're gonna want to take talent points for cast speed. You're really going to be investing in cast speed to make that work. which does have some negative synergy with the Mjolnir setup. So I don't think that setup is as good if you're trying to just like bum rush Mjolnir and get Mjolnir on as fast as possible, because there's a little bit of conflict with what you're investing in. But if you were gonna just play that setup for like the first 2 days or whatever, and then once you can buy an indigon, reroll Archmage with a lot of your same gear, maybe only swap like rings and ammi, but like a lot of the other pieces are the same, that would be a valid setup. But I'll include the POB I had in the bottom for the like early axe BV Archmage Unleash. But I'll just say there's like, off the top of my head, 3 options. There are probably more than that you could do now that Archmage is much more versatile in the early game. That version's a little nerfed because of the inspiration changes. Inspiration is now less mana instead of reduced mana, which matters because if you have reduced mana, things like Dreamer, which is 10% reduced, the build-up point is 5. This is 3, 9, 4, 3. All these, the mastery's 10. All these sources of reduced mana, you can get up to like 40% just on the tree. If Inspiration's also 40, those stacked additively to be an 80% reduction. But now with the Inspiration change, it's times 0.6 twice, so it's 36% cost. Where if you had like double 40, it'd be only 20% cost. So like by that math, you're actually spending 80% more mana now. So like in that sense, with Inspiration change, the standard Archmage setup got a little weaker. So I will probably opt to do a little more in line with how I did this league, but I'll show you. I played this for 324, and this part, not much has changed. But with a lot of people going into mana builds this league, one thing is this is my day 2 gear. I'm 11.8k energy shield, just under 10k mana. Decent evasion, like decent defense overall. I'm using a Mind Spiral because Indigons were really expensive on League Start. I think that will slightly improve this league because last league, there was a lot of people trying out mana builds for the first time. This league, if you didn't get the memo, is the melee league. All right? People are going to be slamming, jamming, striking. That might mean that the indigon cost is much more manageable. So it might not hit 16 divines this league. It might only hit like, 4 or 5. We'll see. But I'll link this POB in the video. This is about 1.3 mil DPS. Let me look at it here. But this is Lightning Condor of the Heavens, which is my clear speed setup. So it's 1.3 mil, but like I said, you want to use Lightning Condor of the Heavens for clear speed because it's a very good mapping setup. You want to use Ball Lightning Vorbiting for like bossing or maybe like Delve. So like if I just looked at this damage and just turned this off and did Ball Lightning of Orbiting instead, and just did that damage, like now I'm at 3 mil, right? So 1.3 mil is not good for like early game bossing, but like for mapping 1.3 mil is fantastic for like just tier 16 farming on day 2. 3 mil is like okay for doing Guardian maps and stuff. Like a base Guardian has 34 mil HP. So if you're trying to do like some Minotaur maps on day 2, it should be like, a 12-second kill. That's manageable, but this is the pre-Indigon. So Indigon, like 3 to 5 times is your damage. So, like I said, it being expensive this last league was a little rough because I have to play like this. But then the second you put on Indigon, you just immediately, like, I'm going to humor you here. I'm just going to put on an Indigon. Just see the difference. Add to build, swap Mind Spiral to Indigon, set mana spent recently to 10,000. Oh, look, I have 8 million DPS now. So it nearly tripled, but I also haven't optimized anything. Like, I'm still taking these. So like if I take these out instead, put invert back over here, and just like invest harder into mana, which like I said, I'm this is not I don't have this is not optimized right now, but like if I just instead did something like that, like probably with the actual correct talent point tweaks and taking out of all these nodes and stuff, it probably is like 10 to 13 mil just by swapping that Mind Spiral to Indigon and then dropping all my percent damage sources for just pure mana scaling to double dip. So yeah, I'll link this POB, but this is like the super dumpster POB. I'll add a POB for like an optimized post Indigon. The other one I'll go over though is I'll include this POB, which is I think what most people will aspire to get to. This is like a very realistic hittable thing. This is I'm gonna say probably about 150 div. This is no Mageblood. This is just a Stygian I crafted with tier 2 attributes on Hunter because I can't hit slams. No Adorned. It's using Imp mana splits, which are typically cheaper than Strength Imp by far. It's using no Flesh Flame Jewels, no Crit Jewels. Nothing too crazy. It's got like I just duplicated like a rare jewel, but there's a lot of range you can get on rare jewels. There's all attributes, strength imp, pure strength, hybrid res, single res, all res. You want to make sure you have 2 good suffixes, and you want to make sure you have percent mana. The other one could be like percent life or percent ES. But watch my search string video on how to set up good 4-stat rings or jewel searches. But this doesn't have lethal pride either. You can do lethal pride up top and healthy mind down bottom right here. Drop these points, connect here, and then add these points, and then you get a keep iron will have lethal pride up top. I didn't include a lethal pride in this POB, but that's you do one of these 2 spots. Probably top is better now since we no longer take Dreamer with the change. I learn to use the timeless jewel calculator and find something that's good here or really good here, one of the two. But I usually include just like a sample lethal pride in here. And I deliberately pick one that's not expensive because that's like deceitful to use. Like, in the past it was a 14067 down here. And I think it's scummy to include the POB with the best lethal pride. So I tried the last couple of times just including like a garbage one up here that had like 2 useful ones. And then people thought that was the best one and like tried to buy that one for an illogical price because they thought that because that's the one I was using the POB that's the one they need to buy. And that's not true at all. So I'm just not even going to include the lethal pride. But learn to search for a lethal pride in the timeless jewel calc. There's probably 50 to 100 different number combos that would be better than a rare jewel. Put one here, move healthy pride down here, healthy mind down here, connect here, drop these 3, and then take some of these to fill your mana fillers. But like, this is pre-Mageblood. Like this is about 150 div. I'm making the assumption that Squire is going to stay somewhat cheap because the last 2 leagues it's hit like 1 divine because our Magic Find friends have made them that cheap. Some Quank got nerfed, but there's a 6th map device slot now. I think in a little bit of time they'll settle down to a reasonable like sub 10 div price, sub 5. Calandra's Touch were also stupid cheap. I have an Eyes of the Great Wolf, but I bought this for 12 divines. This is not an attributes mana Great Wolf. Those would be very expensive. I would definitely not include that in like a mid-league POB. But I bought this because I'm like, oh, attributes is what I want. There's a couple second mods that are good. You can get like percent life, obviously mana. You can get global defenses. You can get flat fizz reduction. You can get lightning damage. There's like 7 or 8 or 10 mods that are like usable. I grabbed one that had flat fizz reduction and it was really good. But like this POB is like a 150k max hit with 46 mil DPS. This POB beats 7 of 7 Ubers like fairly boringly. This is stand in all the Shaper Slams and all the Shaper Balls and all the Shaper Beams and phase him in like 4 or 5 seconds. This is half the damage I showed here which with like the Shaper damage reduction ramp would only mean it would take 1 to 2 seconds longer to kill. And instead of like 22k, 19k, it's 18k, 15k, because this is like the reasonable budget POB. I'll include this POB in the description as well. Like I said, I think this is what probably most people could fairly easily achieve on the setup, but like obviously you can take it farther. You can get a Mageblood. This happens to be a Path of Exile build, therefore Mageblood is good for it. If you switch to Mageblood, it's pretty simple. You drop all res on like all your sources of it, all your jewels and stuff, your rings, whatever, and you just pick it up with flasks instead. Pretty self-explanatory. For my Lightning Warp, you can, especially after Mageblood, switch to Shock Nova. I don't recommend switching to Shock Nova pre-Mageblood because regular Cyclone speed is not very fast. So the Lightning Warp speed is very nice. The nice thing is, though, that after you get Mageblood, you finally have enough movement speed that you can just play with, you know, Mageblood speed and then Shock Nova. That allows you to run LA Focus, which is a really good support, and still get 65% shocks. Or with Enhance, you could get like 85% shocks. Very good option. If I wanted to actually do that like all kill, like more effectively, I would have ran Shock Nova, and he would have died like 50% faster. That would have been like the correct thing to do. But I just wanted to show Lightning Warp for, you know, because this is my preferred play style for like, you know, early, even mid, even late game farming. It's just comfy. So that is the updated Mjolnir guide. I will include these POBs. If you've played it in the past, fundamentally not much has changed, but the gearing choices have changed a bit with like Adorned and stuff. And I'm more confident than ever that the top two skills are Lightning Conduit of the Heavens for AoE and Ball Lightning of Orbiting. Really for single target and for AoE, depending on what kind of AoE it is. If it's like Delve, where you're in the same area, it's just superior, flat out, and you get instant leech for like infinite recovery. The only thing I like Conduit of the Heavens for is just speed mapping. You know, you're just teleporting from screen to screen, blowing up the whole screen instantly. That will be faster than Ball Lightning of Orbiting, because you'll just clear a screen per second, and you don't have to wait on the balls to travel out for that. But that'll wrap it up. This is still a really, really strong build. I know, like I said, people are gonna want to play melee. There might be some rude awakenings. There might be some bait. There might be people who look at the number changes on melee and see, oh, this skill got a 75% buff. I'm going to play that. But they forget that it was garbage before, and now the mana cost is like 2.5 times higher, so their main skill costs 78 mana, and they have no way to recover that. And their planned Warcry piano costs 65 mana each for 4 Warcries, and they're really confused how they're going to cover that cost. So then they're going to try to blood tap everything and realize they don't have 4 spare sockets. Be prepared for that. But for once, Mjolnir is kind of the established build. It has got reps. You know it works. It has worked for many leagues now. It is a safe play. There's not really any risk of it not working. So for many leagues, I've peddled Mjolnir, and people have looked at me like I was crazy because it's some hipster build that no one's played. But now, finally, the tables have turned, and this is the established build that is a safe pick. So, enjoy 325. It looks amazing. Maybe you'll play some melee, or maybe you'll take a safe pick with Mjolnir. I'll see you guys next time.